Hello and welcome to the Next Level Podcast. I'm Tim Miller, along with my bestie, JVL. You might be noticing this is a new Sunday edition of the Next Level. We're going to be coming at you now 2 times a week, double the next level, double the fun. And in these Sunday editions, we're doing something a little different, a little bit for your weekend, you know, to maybe take some of the stress level down of just all of the horribles that happen in the news every day. We're going to be bringing in people from outside of politics, outside of punditry, and we'll chat a little bit about the news, but then a little bit about their life, and kind of learn about some things besides politics, have some banter, give you a little something to listen to when you're walking the dog.
Fun. We're gonna have fun. We're not used to doing fun because we all live in the worst possible timeline, but I think we're gonna have fun.
But the board can have fun, and so this week we've taped the first episode of this. And JVL, was it fun? Do you think we had fun?
I mean, I had a ton of fun because our guest was fantastic. Can we tell the people about him? I mean, they're going to see him in like a minute and a half. But Adam Brody.
The guest was Seth Cohen. Seth Cohen from the OC. I kind of might have implied I had a childhood crush on it. I didn't say it right on the nose, but I think he was I think he was reading between the lines.
There was subtext.
I think he was reading between the lines. You think he read between the lines?
I think he picked up what you were laying down. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it got a little awkward because he's heterosexual.
Star of the upcoming Shazam: Fury of the Gods, the second Shazam movie, and in which he plays Freddy, young Freddy's big Marvelized self, which is super exciting.
It's so good. We talked about the Fleishman Is in Trouble, which is an awesome show I just finished, which you should watch. So we'll get into it. He's like shockingly candid and fun about his political views. We talked a lot about, we did like a little bit of politics. It was extremely cool. So we're going to do this now every Sunday. Sometimes it'll be actors. Sometimes it'll be sports figures. Sometimes maybe it'll be politicians, but we'll just do it more fun, and talk a little less about politics. So hopefully you guys like it. Nominate for us people that you want to hear. Give us your feedback. We're figuring this out on the fly, but double the next level. You'll still get your Wednesdays with Sarah, Tim, and JVL every Wednesday. Before we get to Adam, though, I have a little bit of housekeeping, and I'm going to do this every week. Just make sure we're up to date on the news. Before we get up to date on the news, one housekeeping item. I was fooled on Wednesday's Next Level by a prank.
He punked you?
Nick Cannon is not actually... Yeah, Nick Cannon is starting a prank show, and I was the first victim. I got pranked, and he is not actually starting a show where he's trying to find a woman to birth his 13th child. He's starting a prank show, and it would have been a funny show. I mean, natalism, go natalism. Not my party is pro-natalism this week, so I would have been pro, but I just we don't like to be fake news here at the Bulwark, so I just wanted to clean that up. And I want to just hit on 2 other things really quick, JVL. Have you seen the Lieutenant Governor of Tennessee, his Instagram activity?
No,
has that come across your radar?
What's he been up to?
Lieutenant Governor of Tennessee, 79-year-old man, a great-grandpa, seems like a good, God-fearing man, and on Instagram, he's been posting a lot of fire emojis.
Oh.
Are you on Insta?
I'm not.
Do you send fire
I'm sorry,
emojis?
I don't do Insta. What does the fire emoji mean?
No. Yeah, well, so generally it means hot. Like, you're hot, that's hot. He also posts some hearts, which generally means love. I love this. So maybe he meant this in a grandfatherly way, but there's a young gentleman, about 20 years old, kind of androgynous, which we support here at the Next Level. Kind of,
no judgments.
A little bit of a femboy kind of vibe. And he is posting pictures of like his butt in skirts, and the lieutenant governor is replying with fire emojis and comments about how he's bringing brightness to his day, which is kind of interesting because Tennessee right now is going through the most anti-gay legislature in the entire country, passing drag bans, passing different rules in schools, modeling after the Florida bill, anti-trans legislation. So it seems like there's a little bit of a conflict there.
Do you think that these Instagram posts were with prurient intent? Oh.
They seem prurient to me.
Okay.
They seem prurient to me. It might be a felony. Anyway, go check just, for your own enjoyment. I also, before we get to Adam, since this is the fun show on Sundays.
I'm hoping that the lieutenant governor is able to live his life as his authentic self without shame.
Me too.
And enjoy people, as long as he can still put in jail the bad people.
Me too.
As long as he can still put in jail the bad people. Me too. And just, enjoy people. So long as he can still put in jail the bad people. Me too. And just, enjoy people. As long as he can still put in jail the bad people. Me too. And just, enjoy people. So long as he can still put in jail the bad people. Right, that's the most important thing.
Well,
so long as he can still prosecute
the gays, the real gays, not the fake gays, not the ones putting $5 into young men's OnlyFans, but like the actual out gays are the ones that need to be punished. Anyway, one piece of good news before we get to Adam. Someone experienced the consequences of their actions ish. This week. Do you want to talk about that?
One of the things I always say, Tim, one of my maxims, is that if you wait long enough and you're patient enough, then eventually you will get to experience life's greatest pleasure, which is watching bad things happen to bad people. It's a rare
we need
bird.
Sarah here to counter you.
But this week, a judge in Colorado, before a disciplinary hearing, censured Jenna Ellis, the famous lawyer and great legal mind of the MAGA movement, for making some factual misstatements during her turn as an officer of the court. And she stipulated to 10 of them. And she took her medicine, she took her censure, and then promptly ran off to mock Mitch McConnell for falling down. Because she learned her lesson. Oh, also, she's a Christian. Yeah. She's very, very Christian.
These are the best people. These are the people that would be, in office in Trump's second term. Just a few wrong facts. Just to make sure our listeners are up to speed. Trump did not, in fact, win in a landslide.
No.
Jenna admitted that was incorrect. Trump did not find 500,000 illegal votes that had been cast in Arizona. She admitted that was a lie.
Yeah.
Trump's team did not have evidence of a coordinated effort in all of these states to transfer votes from Trump to Biden, manipulate the ballots to count them in secret. Also a lie. And the statement that Hillary Clinton didn't concede the 2016 election, we all were alive on Earth in 2016 and knew that was also untrue. So thank you, Jenna, for coming clean on that. Thank you to Tucker for letting us know that you passionately hate Donald Trump. It's nice to just get these facts out there, and I'm sure that they'll be all over MAGA media this week so everyone can know.
So,
the truth,
Tim, you're a cradle Catholic. You remember where it says in 2 Corinthians that thou shalt not bear false witness unless you are attempting a coup and trying to incite liberal tears. And in those cases, it says
install a thrice married game show host.
Yeah,
if you install
in those cases, it's cool.
Into power,
and that's why
cool.
The Christians are the bestest.
Everyone, go subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Tell your friends. Maybe your friends don't love daily politics, but maybe they want a little, a hint of conservative tears and Seth Cohen in their life. Send this podcast to them. Please enjoy it. We'll see you back here on Wednesday with Sarah. And up next, my new best friend, Adam Brody. Hello and welcome to the Next Level Podcast for the Bulwark. I'm Tim Miller, along with my best friend, Jonathan V. Last, and my imaginary friend, Adam Brody, who we are thrilled to have with us. Adam, it's pretty cool, kind of our origin story. I met you this past weekend at CPAC, and then you just kind of turned it around, really quickly.
Turned it around?
Yeah, about getting you on the show. I met you in the hallway at CPAC. You and Sarah, you were hanging out at the Sarah Palin booth, the anti-ranked choice voting thing, and
much to discuss.
Those are your people.
Those are my people. They're fighting the good fight, and we'll just keep marching the weeks in those weeks tighter and tighter on that band till there's no daylight between insemination and legal personhood.
Okay, we'll get back to that. So I want to start on politics with your Twitter bio is vote or die, which is pretty intense, which is one of the reasons we invited you. And so I'm just wondering your origin story of kind of getting into politics.
Yeah.
And was it or was it not just inspiration from your father, Sandy Cohen, or what was it something else that really got you into it?
It wasn't Sandy Cohen, although it was a little my parents. They were lifelong. They weren't overtly political actually, but they were lifelong Democrats. So I was raised with that. Not to say that we had political discussions. There just wasn't any worshiping of Reagan or anything. Sure. And then I remember I'm 43, so I was 21 when 9/11 happened. And I remember that was the first presidential election right before when Bush won, that I was paying, fairly close attention, not like I would now, but still, paying any attention to really. And being pretty peeved about it. And then, and then 9/11 happened, and I thought, you get what you pay for. And I don't mean that it's Bush's fault. I just meant like, well, now we have a crisis and we have an idiot, and obviously in hindsight, in the context, now he seems like a paragon of virtue and highly intelligent.
You had no idea how big the idiots we could get, did you?
Yeah. But at the time, even as a young man, I thought, and an uneducated young man, I thought, or at least formally, I thought like, this is going to be bad. And you don't have, despite your values even, or whatever, your political leanings, this is why you don't have like, intelligence is important in a leader. And anyways, and then it kind of went from there. I also, was on the set of the OC a few years later. I remember an AD, like a second AD, the guy who would knock, his name was Sean, and he would knock on our trailers and stuff. And he was very leftist, and we would have some discussions. And I was getting all my education from the Los Angeles Times and NPR and New York Times. And he gave me a Chomsky book. I think it was Understanding Power. And it's not that like I couldn't even recall what was in it exactly, but it resonated with me a bit. And it's not that I'm, and so that kind of set me on a path a little bit as well. And I've been increasingly more engaged ever since.
Yeah, I mean, you are on a moderate squish podcast here, so let's be a little careful with the Chomsky. I do notice.
I know that could be a bad word.
That's okay.
You're validating every right-wing fear about Hollywood.
What's a squish?
We're squishy. We're centrist. What's wrong? We like Joe Biden. Joe Biden's fine. Yeah, squish, political squish, not hard line.
Yeah. That much I know.
And so I
like that. I think it makes it a fun conversation. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been monitoring your feed, and a lot of AOC. I think, are we pinned? AOC might be pinned. And so would you say that's
I don't understand the terminology? Like, I mean, I've seen pinned, but I don't know what pin is.
You
literally click on the top of your feed and you say like, I think I've just been off for a handful of months, and so it's just sitting there. I kind of quit Twitter. I'll come back when there's an election and or maybe a charitable thing to tweet, but I think I'm off it for good.
You quit over Elon, or just mental health?
Yeah, partially. Yeah, I can't stand him. And also just.
Big respect, Adam Brody.
Really?
Nice. Yeah, 100%. I'm always yelling at my colleagues to get off of Twitter. Always.
I will never leave.
I also had this. I put
you
it
weren't
down
that far off. You replied to my DM within like 24 hours. So I have to call you out. You're not totally off.
It came through my email.
Oh, okay.
And it comes, and so I it was work, and I've only gone back on a few times to do the DM, like respond to DMs that make it through some don't. It's weird. But I missed a few. But anyways, I really enjoyed my time. I was on it for like 4 or 5 years. I learned a lot. I, followed interesting people. But it is, and I think it's what's good about it, and it is I didn't realize to the degree, I put it down for 3 months, or just like a quiet 3 months, did more reading, read more longer articles, listened to longer podcasts, etc. Still feel like I'm as informed. And I opened it back up to reply to some DMs and work stuff. And it was just like a box of people, like a war going on. And instantly I'm like, oh, Charlie Kirk said this, etc. And all these people that I don't fucking care about. And in fact, like, only that's their job, is to make me angry. And I just don't want them in my mind. And I think it's bad for you. And if I can go on one more second,
please do.
I came up with this hypothesis yesterday, but I believe it. I don't know. I believe it enough to say it, which is that, like, I'm sure social media, I think it's ultimately going to be good for humanity. I think it's a necessary step in our evolution as a species, and we can cooperate on a larger scale. But I think, as I understand it, the agricultural revolution and maybe I read this in Sapiens. I don't know if that's too fucking lefty for you or not.
Oh, Sapiens fine.
But that the lifespan for your average like farmer or after was worse for maybe 100 years, maybe a few thousand years. For a while, your city dweller life was worse than your hunter gatherer life, because you could be exposed to famine more easily and disease and et cetera. But clearly it was a necessary step in growing civilization. And I kind of think that way. I think that's how I think right now. That's how I'm thinking about social media. Like, for sure, it's bad for your heart, and it like is going to lower life expectancy for this generation, but I do still think it's a worthwhile and necessary step in sort of furthering the, in the
poor
in the
Gen Z.
progress
They're in the famine and disease era of mass communication.
They're going to take. We are too. We are too. I mean, everyone's going to take a hit. I just felt like, as I opened it up again with being off for 3 months, I was just like, oh fuck, this is so clearly bad. As like, for you, isn't it me as an individual? Even though I think it's furthering conversations and probably good. I think probably good for the community as a whole, eventually, if not already. Anyway,
preach it, brother.
Yeah, JBL's getting excited over there, listening to your anti.
Tim, it's like you're talking to me.
I'm going down. I'm going to be the last Japanese soldier fighting the war against Charlie Kirk. It's just going to be me and Charlie left on there.
No, it'll be you and bots. You'll be on there arguing against
Crypto
like
bots.
Nothing but bots, not even knowing that their chat GPTs will be, running all the Twitter accounts, and you'll still be there posting because you're a poster.
I'm a poster. My blood pressure will be skyrocketing. I'm never leaving.
And so AOC, are you not a fan of AOC?
She's fine. I mean, she's okay. I just, I was trying to, we're just trying to position you for our listeners. Like, is AOC, are you just kind of engaging in mostly AOC Instagram rants? And like, that's where you kind of position yourself in the political world these days? Or have you been kind of inspired by Joe Biden's great bipartisan successes on the infrastructure bill?
Yeah, honestly, both. Like, I am a fan of Biden the man. As much as I know, and I don't claim to know the deepest parts of anyone's, all I can do is intuit what I think, and intuit. But I think I'm a fan of him as a person, and I think he's doing as good a job as could be expected. Obviously there are missteps, but by and large, he's kind of taken the party platform and pushed it. I feel like in a pragmatic way, and with her, I just think she's a great communicator, and I think she's very talented. I also think she's very brave. She's like a poster child for the Antichrist for half the country, and that's a dangerous position to be in, and you have to have a lot of strength, and so are people on the other side, but I don't think they're in the same kind of literal danger. But regardless, I think she's a great communicator.
You don't think that like the pussy hat moms like going to the resistance are like a physical threat to Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yeah. Perhaps, but not to the same degree.
Fucking like hot cappuccino right to the grill of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she walks into the wrong coffee shop. Maybe.
Oh boy.
Sarah Huckabee did get denied that meal that one time.
Yeah.
Where were you on that?
I know, that was hard.
Do you feel like she should be
has
denied
faced
meals?
discrimination?
Fuck yeah. I think she should be denied meals.
Denied a meal. Okay.
I think so many of these people should never be allowed in public life again. I think like, at least in certain circles, I have no problem with it. I mean, what other tools do we have? Some of this shit was so egregious. And I don't know. I just feel like, it's the same thing with, I don't know. Yes. The short answer is yes. I think she should be denied meals.
Adam, I don't want to bring the vibe here down, but I got news for you. None of these people will ever pay any price for any of it. There will be a handful of people like, nobodies who go to jail because of, January 6th. But the rest of them, the people who enabled it, the John Eastmans of the world, the people who've made, millions of dollars off of it and made their careers off of it, the Molly Hemingway, none of those people will even get like mild talking tos, let alone.
What about,
and we know
try and salvage like a little piece of a silver lining?
Okay. Don't
you think maybe it hurts the Kushner and Ivanka a little bit in terms of like, are they kind of laughed out of Manhattan, or do they get to hang around Manhattan still?
This is your only power. Honestly, I know that, you tweet, you support these, volunteer organizations, which is really good and it's admirable. But like all of that's kind of on the margins. Your only real power is shunning Javanka. And this is why you're here, actually, because we want to encourage you to shun them as much as possible. And to shun them, you have to shun those who refuse to shun them. If you hear of them attending, some sort of confab in West Hollywood or, in Manhattan, you need to make sure that the other people that attended shun them. Like I used to work with Sean Spicer, for example. And Sean went to the Emmys and had like actors like wanting to get selfies with him. And I was like, no, bad. You're giving him what he wants.
He was on like Dancing with the Stars right away. And I thought, fuck you, ABC.
Fuck you, ABC.
But here, hold on, Tim. So I want to say, so our power to like exact justice with the people who behave terribly is basically zero, right? It is, as Tim says,
all right,
shunning.
Fair. Okay, sure.
So this is what, but what can you do? What you can do is you can go out and put good out into the world, which is what you have done with all the charity work that you do with Voices for Children and Feeding America.
Yeah. I thank you, and yet I don't do nearly as much as I could or should. So I don't want to sit here and
that's true for all of us, though. Right? But this is what I'm saying. Everybody in their own little communities where you can, like that's how you eventually win the long war, right? You change things.
There's another way we can beat them. We beat the assholes in the midterms. That was good.
That 100%. That's very true. And I do think that if there's any, maybe people aren't going to jail, but that dirtbag's out of the presidency, and that's not nothing.
And it took and we spent a lot of time on that. Okay, one last so that transitions to one last thing you could do before we get to talk about the fun stuff, Adam, which is fellow. I don't. Does a teen actor count as a child actor? I don't know if you guys consider yourselves in the same category. So I'm sorry if this is offensive.
No, but not at all. Because we're kind of the opposite. We're like, because we weren't. None of us. Well, one of us, but essentially we weren't teens. We're pretending to be teens. We're actually.
Called acting, Tim.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, anyway, actual child actor then from Boy Meets World. Another big influence on my childhood, though Ben Savage wasn't exactly my type. He's running. Did you see this? He's announcing he's running.
But I just saw. I'm at a hotel and I just saw his brother. I don't know him, although I guess I kind of briefly met him downstairs. But go ahead.
So is this? I mean, I was listening to another podcast of yours, which is one of the reasons we had you on, and you were saying you imagined in another life, if you weren't an actor, politics might have been one of the things you would pursue. So, do you have a pang of jealousy that Ben is living that out? Do you think maybe you should be going for the Henry Waxman seat? No,
California? I don't. I don't know their politics either. Where's he running? LA?
He's running for Adam Schiff's seat. So I assume he's
really.
I assume he's a Democrat. Well, yeah, Adam's running for Senate. So it's open.
Right.
Adam Schiff's going to run for Senate.
In the Senate race for a second. I was like, wow. No, okay, cool.
That would have been a bold. That would have been a bold challenge. Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, Corey from Boy Meets World.
Maybe I should jump into the congressional seat, and it can just be an act. It can be an act
head to head. Do you think you could take him?
No, probably not. I don't know. I don't think I'd necessarily be great. I mean, I also don't. I would have to run in a place where I could thoroughly be myself and speak my mind, in a which makes sense. I live in a liberal enough place, so that might be fine. But I mean, I don't think having to like temper your opinions seems like fun.
Are there any areas that you feel like that you would like to speak your mind right now that are maybe outside of the conventional, liberal pieties? Do you is there
Sure,
something that's
sure.
been
I have a
bothering you?
little yeah. I have one which is, and I'm not perfect myself
Okay.
in this, and I won't continue to be, but like first of all, in terms of just an issue, I think guns are it's a no-brainer to me of all the issues. I mean, of all the things that are it's clear which way to go, and it's clear which way if we want to survive as a species, how the civilized world will progress. It's just, it's so basic. And I do think that Hollywood has a role to play that they're not playing, that they're very unconscious of or willfully ignorant of, which is that, there's obviously trope to say, well, other countries have video games and violent movies and they don't have stuff there. And it's like, true. But what would help us change the laws was, to be like to tamp down the gun worship, and I think it's like, yeah, you can have these liberal values, but then when Brad Pitt, etc., but anyone, you know what I mean? When there's outdoor advertising of all our heroes pointing a gun at you and holding a gun and making it looking fucking cool. And it does, they're cinematic. There's a real charisma to them, but weapons, I mean, and
Yeah.
guns in particular. But I think that has I think if you took that out of the equation, at least lowered it a lot more, the temperature of that. And for example, I don't think they should be allowed in outdoor advertising the same way you can't smoke in outdoor advertising. Can't have a guy on a billboard smoking a cigarette anymore. I don't think you should have a guy holding a gun on a billboard. But
JVL, is that tickling your social conservative pickle at all? Do we have a Tipper Gore, Jonathan V. Last, Adam Brody unity here? I'm a little libertarian.
I'm into it.
You're into it?
I'm into it, dude. Oh, I'm so into it. Fury of the Gods coming out March 17th, only in theaters. So, Adam, I got to tell you, my youngest, who is 6, was so jazzed that I was talking to you today because
Really?
Shazam is his favorite of all the superhero movies.
Wow.
And you are his favorite character in Shazam.
Well, that I know what he must be talking about the younger me, but still, I'll take
he's
it.
talking about the Yu, but
The
that's
blue
because your costume is blue and blue is his favorite color. And so in the same way that his chocolate milk will only taste good when it's in the blue IKEA plastic cup, you wear the blue costume. And so therefore you are the best of all the superheroes.
I appreciate that. Tell him thank you. I myself, my daughter is 7. And when I got the job in the first one, she's too young for it. But the first thing I thought of and said was like, oh, she can see it. This is something for us to share for her. And it took a while, but now she's really into it.
I think Shazam is easily, I am a superhero movie connoisseur, easily the most family pleasing of all superhero movies, maybe of all time. It's the only one I've ever watched where literally all 6 of the people in my house liked it, from like my wife to the teen boy to the tween girls to G Money, who's like 5 years old at the time. But I got to ask you about the sequel coming out because you got to work with Helen Mirren.
Yeah,
actors wait their entire lives to get to a chance to work with somebody like Dame Helen Mirren. Did it sort of blow your mind? Was it amazing?
Well, she's working with the blue guy, so she's also very excited.
She's like, blue is my favorite color.
Yeah. No, it was awesome, and she, I mean, what I can say, and look, in truth, I worked pretty briefly with her, but even more so, almost because of that, I was very impressed with how outgoing, how warm she was, how, she went out of her way to introduce herself when she was far down the makeup trailer and certainly didn't have to. And just has a joy de vivre that, is like, I get why she's doing it still, I get why it's like, I don't think she owes like a lot in taxes or whatever, and is trying.
She's like a real actor, but this is like the way the Brits are, right? I mean, the Brits are like, they just keep working because they love the work, and this is why they do it. And they're Michael Caine is in like 10 movies a year up until he retired because like he's an actor, and so what he does is he acts. I think he's basically retired. I think his scene in Tenet was his last, was his farewell scene. I could be wrong about that. I don't want to start any bad rumors, but I got to ask you, did you get cast in this? Did you have like a leg up in the DC world? Cause you wrote a book for Wildstorm once upon a time, didn't you? So I assume you're a comic book guy too.
I co-wrote it. I co-wrote it with my girlfriend's dad and his writing partner at the time. This is, going on 20 years ago.
Right.
But I no, that didn't.
No,
that
you didn't. Like, you weren't like tied in with Jim Lee, and no.
Not at all. Nor I was also cast briefly in a George Miller Justice League from about 15 years ago or so.
I remember that, the thing that never made it. What were you cast as in that?
The Flash. And
no kidding! Holy crap!
Warner Brothers too, and that didn't, I don't think, hold any sway either. It was just a case of, honestly, the thing I had going for me the most was Jack Dylan Grazer, who plays the young Freddy. I play the old Freddy. I resemble him, and I think that more than anything was my leg up.
That's fantastic, man. All right, Tim, I'm sorry. We'll let you back in. The nerds will stop talking now.
A lot of names were thrown out there I didn't know. I guess I'm supposed to do research on this sort of thing, but comic books is just outside my realm. But what I do like to do is sad dramas about middle-aged people trying to recapture their youth. That's right in my wheelhouse. I don't know if you saw that Carrie Lake said that I dressed like a 13-year-old when I did an interview with her yesterday, which was kind of rude.
No, I didn't, and I know you're doing the circus. I like that show a lot. I want to hop back in. I haven't seen. Has this season's been airing?
Yeah,
already?
Just started. It just aired. When this airs, it'll have been last week's ep. But so this past Sunday, we'll be you can see me and Carrie, and her outfit was, I think, not exactly age appropriate either. But that's sort of neither here nor there. I had to focus on the politics of it.
I could talk about that a lot. I didn't know she said that to you, but she is fucking scary.
Seb Gorka called him a dickhead.
Seb Gorka did call me a dickhead. She was scary, I think would be actually more accurate. Now she's sad. She was really scary, and then she lost, and now she's like living this imaginary world. Now she's sad. Anyway, a character that I resonated with that you have been portraying recently was on Fleishman Is in Trouble. Tell people, for people who haven't watched Fleishman, it was out last year. It's just out recently. It came out
this winter. Yeah, sure. It's about it's a couple going through a divorce and midlife crisis, and a few of their friends as well, and kind of looking at it through a lot of different lenses or points of view.
Right. So your character is the main character going through the divorce, is like on Tinder and stuff, like his bro friend from college, basically. Yeah. Who's like still
he gets back in touch with me, and I've never settled down, and I'm a finance guy, and living a more hedonistic lifestyle.
Right. So the first 3 episodes, it's like Adam Brody is like taking them to the great sushi place. They're going to the underground to like mud wrestling. They're going to all the cool bars. Your character is also Seth, which is a little weird. Seth is funny.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, boy, a big change for Seth. Seth is funny, and so through 3 episodes, I was like, oh man, this is great. This is a cool character. And then as the show goes on, not to do spoilers, but like it kind of turns out, I think that the writer of the show was trying to portray your character as having a little sad, unfulfilled life as a 41-year-old. Hanging out with 20-year-olds, dressing like a 13-year-old, knowing all the cool clubs. And that made me feel bad, because I was like, oh man, I thought that this character was actually aspirational. But like the lesson seemed to be not really.
Well,
what was your read on that?
All you have to do is get engaged, Tim, and then it turns around.
Yeah, I'm engaged, but does that make it more sad if I'm engaged trying to pretend to be the Seth character, or married actually in this case?
Yeah, if you do it I guess half-heartedly, it's still kind of sad.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry to disappoint you in that regard. What was the writer? What was Taffy is her name? What was she saying there? I don't know. I mean, I think everyone's just re-examining and looking at the other side or the other half of the glass or whatnot. And I think it's, almost used for irony, that's certainly one of the reasons. And, while his friend is getting divorced and is newly discovering, is like having his sexual reawakening, here's somebody who's looking at the other side of it going, I think I wish I had a family. I'm feeling old. I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling like I want some security and some, maybe I could go deeper with someone.
So I'm just asking your permission then, at hypothetically speaking, at 41, is it like okay to have a family and want to like go out until 3 a.m. and have your finance bro buddy take you to the secret clubs, or should you really just be kind of picking a side? What do you think was the overarching lesson of
I
Fleishman?
think you wouldn't be human if you didn't have both those impulses
Right.
to some degree.
I ended up sad, I guess, at the end of Fleishman.
Yeah.
I don't know. Were you supposed to end up sad at the end of the show?
For me, I know a lot of people view it as a bummer. I find it bittersweet and hopeful. I feel like it's people that are going, it's a particular, I think it speaks to a particular generation and generational anxiety. But I also think, look, it's still aspirational. They're in New York. It's beautiful. They have each other. They have, so you still kind of want to be there. And I think in the end, it's left in a hopeful place, I find. So while I find it sad, I find it like a good kind of sad that is, hopeful and cathartic, not tragic.
Yeah.
Or bleak.
It was definitely cathartic. It was good for that for me. I guess my only complaint is that you kind of like spiraled me into like a 36-hour depression by the end of the episode. About like dealing with my own middle age and stuff. But that's good. That's art. That's what you're supposed to do, right? It's better than like, having no impact. But that was what
a lot of people out. In fact, I think I'm sort of hearing like more rumors than anything, but like I think it spawned a couple of divorces.
That was not the case for me. But I did.
But think about how many marriages
in a rocky
saved.
Situation. I was like, don't watch Fleishman. I was like, this is not for you. Actually,
and by the way,
we have a stable marriage.
Like, if there's truth to that, any divorces that sort of kickstarted, like, good for them too. I mean, I don't consider divorce necessarily being a failure, or that can be a positive change for people.
All right, JVL, do you have divorce takes as a avowed Catholic / would you like to get into Kid Detective? Do you want to do Kid Detective, or do you want to do some divorce
I'd rather do Kid Detective, which is one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years. It totally snuck up on me.
Thanks.
And I love the crap out of it for a bunch of different reasons. One of which was because of, it is a movie about how adults fail the kids around them. Right. I mean, like his parents in the town by putting all this pressure on him when he's a young kid. But I felt like it was also weirdly in dialogue with one of my favorite TV shows of like forever, Veronica Mars. Were you a Veronica Mars guy once upon a time? Or no?
I think, listen, there's no. But I haven't, in fairness, I haven't even given it a try. I probably would like it. It's not like
Rob Thomas. It's really good.
I don't
stuff.
Actively not dislike it. I just don't know it. I'm sure that's plenty in common, given that they're both, starred as teenage sleuths.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that was purposeful, because I don't know that Evan, who wrote it, also is familiar with Veronica Mars.
Yeah,
it was very, very much trying to ape like Hardy Boys and all, and
well, not like, but see, I don't mean aping. I mean like sort of like it's in dialogue with these things, right? It's talking back to all of this teen detective literature.
Yes, aping is the wrong word. I very much the wrong word, but yes, it's that, and it's also it's sort of superimposing Chinatown on top of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is a script like that comes your way? It seems, I imagine you don't see scripts like that all that often, right? The movie has such a very particular vibe to it. And
yeah,
did you realize it was something special when it landed in front of you?
I did. And it was a long journey, and it's very almost still surreal to talk about it now that it finally came to fruition. About a decade ago, Evan Morgan, who's a writer-director, he produced and kind of co-directed this other movie that was really good. And he introduced himself to me at Toronto and then Sundance, and we exchanged numbers, and he's like, I'm here with my other movie, but I got, we should talk about stuff. Met him. He's like, I have one idea. Sent it to me. Again, this is like 10 years ago now. Sent it to me, and it was the first 30 pages. He wasn't sure where else it was going to go. We talked about what could happen, and some good areas and some potential pitfalls. And then I didn't hear from him for like another year and a half, 2 years. He came back. He's like, here's the script. I thought it was, he has such a just a signature, sharp, funny, unique voice. It's so offbeat, without trying too hard. It's so organic and so him. And it almost always zigs when you think it's going to zag, but in a very like organic way, like he'd always had to do that. Anyway, that's his voice for anything he writes, in my opinion. But and then it was a long journey of trying to get it made, and I had the script in my back pocket, and I'd hit up any producers on any film, indie film I was doing, and seeing it. And there's a lot of people that really responded to the script, but I'm not, it's hard to get a movie financed for anyone, and I was no exception. And it took a long time, and then it finally did, thanks in large part to the Canadian government, who paid for like half of it, because he's Canadian, and we filmed it in Canada, and really everyone.
Tons of local actors, right? I mean, I feel like almost all the supporting actors, and they're great too.
They're great.
You must have done local casting, and they're fabulous actors.
That's my favorite kind of thing too, is finding new, and not that I found them, and I'm sure they're known in their own, sure they're all known in their own way, but still, to my eyes, a lot of them are fresh faces.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love not, I get so sick of going back to having to finance things. You have to cast the trendiest person of the moment always, and then you work.
How many
your way
TikTok
down
followers do they have? We'll cast her as the love interest because she's got 3 million TikTok followers.
And so it's just boring, Anyway, so it finally happened, and it was very surreal. And then to just have it, I thought it was never going to happen. And in fact, towards the end, I was like, hey, I'm going to turn 40 soon. I'm not going to make this if I'm 40. Should we try and make it a TV show? I tried to pitch him like, let's cut it up. Let's sell it. At least we could like talk to people with money, and they could do it or not, but we get some answers. And he was pretty resistant to that. And then it came through, and we did it. And, and you guys have seen it. Or at least you have, and that's.
I loved it. No, he made me watch it last week. I hadn't seen it. I thought it was fantastic. It was, awesome. I watched it with my father-in-law. It was a much better viewing experience with my father-in-law than White Lotus, which I'd watched with him the night before, which got a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, really quick. I have one really quick question for you, and thank you for smoking. But it's maybe more about me than about you. But I'd like your take on it. So when Thank You for Smoking first came out, I saw the main character in like the spirit of Tony Soprano and kind of in the spirit of our gun conversation as kind of like a hero, right?
Yeah.
I thought he was cool. And I like modeled my early career a little bit after him, which like says really bad things about me. I understand. And my question for you about Thank You for Smoking is, does that just show something about like was that my warped understanding of the world as a young man? Or do you look back on that and think, man, we kind of, valorize this main dude a little too much?
I'm sure that's true. The second, what you just said, I haven't seen it since it came out. It came out in 2005.
Right.
2005. I was thinking I'm really due for a rewatch because I really liked it. And yes, he was an anti-hero at the time. Of course, he was, an amoral, but that was part of his charm because he was also charming. I forget in the end, I thought what Jason Reitman did that was an interesting and worked really well at the time, that his son is sort of the moral compass in the movie, or that's who he's talking to and teaching. His son is not in the book really at all, a couple scenes. And so he had the son tag along so he could, I don't know if it was just to make exposition easier or to have like a sort of heart to the entire thing. And I don't recall if Nick Naylor, the main character, grew sort of any conscience, or he just won, in the end. My guess is he probably just won. I didn't grow much of a conscience, but he probably just won the day. And I can only imagine that under 20 going on 20 years later, I would view it differently. And even though there's plenty, the whole point is he's an anti-hero, and, his amorality is his charm, in the same fucking way, like Tony Stark, is like, might think a little differently about the Tapis bomb guy.
Now we have a real Tony Stark. Yeah, that's true. Okay, I want to get to the rapid fire questions, but I was going to start with this, but I felt like starting with the most awkward question probably isn't the best way to kind of build a rapport in a podcast. I don't know. I'm still learning. Or we could. I'm still learning the ropes, right? We'll test it out. Okay. So, but I'm wondering, my main question for you is, are you aware of the status of Seth Cohen as kind of like a gay icon among millennial gays. Do you know in West Hollywood, do you notice like leering eye contact among 30 somethings or anything of that nature?
I am 100% oblivious to this.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to bring that to you now because a certain type of alternative gay, we're not seen on TV. Nobody, right? Like, if you go back to 2003, well, basically there are no gay teens on TV at all, right? You have the Dawson's Creek guy who's like 38 playing a teenager. Like, you have a couple really gay people, which is great. Love Queens. But, Seth Cohen, right? If this was made in 2023, Seth Cohen would be gay, right? Like he's into indie rock. He can't play sports. He's a little neurotic. I feel like this is a gay character in 2023.
If it was made in 2003, would Seth Cohen be gay? Is a great question, and I don't know. I could certainly conceive it. I mean, I could conceive of it. Yeah, I don't have I can't come down definitively on it, but I would say that it's more than plausible. It might even be probable.
We'll take more than plausible. Okay. We'll put that onto queerty. We'll leave that as more than plausible. Okay. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. We got 5. I got 1. JVL got 1. I got 1. JVL got 1. And then we'll leave. They're going to be easy and fast. Are you ready?
Go.
Let's do it. Okay. The OC, among all the great things about the OC, the soundtrack, was influential on my music taste, was exposed me to so much in the pre-Spotify days. We're in the Napster days then. Do you have a favorite track or even of the compilations? Do you have a favorite from the OC soundtrack?
Probably, and it's evolved over the years. And I would say very recently as like 3 weeks ago, just kind of going down memory lane with my wife, I played Not a Surf, who is I liked a lot, but wasn't even in my top 5 at the time. Yeah. And I was like, this is probably holds up like as good as anything from like, this is in a way, like under celebrated, I think, for how kind of good. Anyways, I just thought it was great. Always loved. Great song. And I played a few more and I was like, these guys, and they were a little older, I think, than a lot. Like they had some albums in the 90s and you could kind of hear that in sort of their stuff's a little more anthemic, and I thought it just held up really well.
Good choice. JVL,
favorite episode of Gossip Girl? Go.
Or moment.
I don't know. I haven't really seen it, but in fairness, my wife hasn't really seen the OC either.
For people who don't know, Adam is married to Leighton Meester, as the main character, basically, of Gossip Girl. You've never seen it? You never saw a single episode?
I think we watched, when we first got together, we did like a swap, and I think you watched like each other's, like the pilots. She had a friend over, and we kind of. So I've seen the pilot, and so that, and I want to. She's like, don't, but I want to.
Once the kids are, out of the young phase, then you'll get to like watch things together.
Yeah,
again.
Totally. I recently, because I hadn't seen the OC since it aired, and obviously I get asked about it a lot, but the truth is I'm far from an authority on it because most people that are talking to me about it have seen it more recently than I have. And I watched a handful of episodes and enjoyed it. And also, it's 20 years old. It was really neat that so much time had passed and I'm viewing it in a much different lens than I was even 5 or 10 years ago. And it was nice to go through the yearbook. And I found myself appreciating it more than I have in the previous 20 years.
Do you do have a least favorite Gossip Girl, whether or not you know it, and that is that Javanka did make a cameo on Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
So you have a least favorite episode. We don't have a favorite. Okay. Do you have a favorite piece of like a recent movie, something you've worked on, you've not worked on, book, anything? Just give give us a couple recs, something that you don't think gets the love it deserves.
Sure. Let me give you 2. One, okay. I think Avatar is
no, have you heard of that?
Fuck, the new one. No, the people are not. Yes, have you seen it?
No.
Adam,
you think Avatar is underrated?
Hold on a second. Adam,
The Way of Water.
Will you please say for the camera, Sarah, go see Avatar?
Yeah, please. Our co-host.
Sure, Sarah, go see Avatar. Do it with the 3D glasses. Don't wait till later. See it in the theaters. I've seen it twice. I saw it in IMAX in a regular theater, but both 3D. I didn't feel the IMAX was cool, but it wasn't that different to me as long as you have the glasses. I took my daughter. I was like, we can leave after an hour. I've heard mixed things. Reviews seem to be kind of mixed, so I'm sure it's okay, but it's 3D. That could be interesting, and we can leave after an hour if we're bored. And I loved it. And I could go on, but it's rapid fire. I'll just say, but it's like I was for a blockbuster movie, a popcorn movie. I thought it did so many things well.
That's a great rec. Do you have a rec that made less than $1 billion in
again, nobody's talking about this. People talk about Top Gun. They don't talk about this. To me, there's kind of no comparison. I enjoy Top Gun, but this is another level to me, and it has not gotten the love that other blockbusters have, even though it's making money. And I don't know, if it's making the money that the first one did. I got a book. In 1 sec.
Okay.
I'm reading this book. You guys will like this.
He's gonna break out why we did it, isn't he?
Why we did it? Why we did it from the Republican Road to Hell.
No, but it's close. Are you familiar with this? You might be as conservatives as Squishes. Diary of a Man in Despair by Frederick.
That's actually what Why We Did It was based on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
and it's this conservative. He's really into. It's interesting. I mean, he's bemoaning the fall of. Anyways, it's conservative in Germany during the rise of Hitler and then the war. And it's a secret diary because he can't say this in public. He buries it in the yard every night as he writes about how much he hates this guy and how everyone's lost their minds. It's very interesting. And as you see the war progress through the background and the lens of inside Germany and from someone who's not persecuted, just as going, can't believe it. I mean, and it's definitely through a conservative lens in the sense of, he's bemoaning the death of religion. He hates the bourgeoisie and is bemoaning like the old royalty and monarchy or whatever. But I'm finding it very interesting. So I like it.
All right, JVL.
Favorite politician or political writer? Somebody you go to that you love?
I like this question. Well, a politician. I don't know. I'll pause on that. I don't want to take up too much time, but like I like Bernie
we got all
a lot.
The time in the world.
Okay, great. I like Bernie. I like AOC. I think she's like as a personable puts it in plain English and I think, like I said, she's a great communicator. Writers, I used to like, they're not writers, they're more entertainers, but like I used to like Bill Maher until I don't now, as a lot of people don't. And I didn't like starting in a way in the like even in the Trump really era in the beginning. I just found I'm like, oh, you're not as informed now that everyone's taken their information up, and now that everyone's like really hunkering down and learning about the process. I was like, oh, you're not actually that informed. But regardless, I just feel like we've gone through this total consciousness raising, we've totally evolved in the last 5 years, and he hasn't, and I don't feel like he can. I feel like he can only see the bad in it and can't see the good.
You can flip it over to Showtime's The Circus. We can flip off HBO.
I love The Circus.
Boom.
Love
easy
The Circus.
Easy trade.
Another thing that you guest on occasionally that I enjoy. I still enjoy Pods Save America. I like those guys, and I like it sort of.
Okay, but they don't need any more compliments. They are good. Yeah, we might have to cut this out of the episode. I don't want the Pod Bros. I don't want Tommy texting me and being all excited that he got the shout out.
I'm trying to think writers that like, who do I read sort of in the old op-eds that I like. I like the lefties. I like Michelle Goldberg.
Michelle's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michelle's great. We'll send you some Rex to broaden your horizons a little bit. Michelle's great though. She is awesome, and we will keep this in because she deserves to get shouted out. Not Tommy and not the bros. Okay, right. Finally, most important final question: your favorite LGBTQ American?
My favorite LGBTQ.
Name a gay person. This is the Billy Eichner question. Name a gay person.
Yeah. All right. Well, just to make,
RuPaul,
I mean,
this is great. There's an attack on transgender Americans happening,
and now
RuPaul.
I love it. I love it.
RuPaul's your favorite, though. We could get you a little deeper into the drag world, Bob.
No,
the drag queen.
I'm
Simone.
a novice. I don't, I've never seen Drag Race, although I did just watch all of Trixie Motel. So Trixie Motel,
Trixie's amazing.
I know, she's cool. If we want to go drag, but otherwise, to make you happy, John Lovett.
Oh, that makes me horrible happy. We are definitely cutting that from the fucking show. Adam Brody, my longtime friend of me, John Lovett, is not the best LGBTQ plus American. Adam, dude, thank you so much for doing this. Shazam is in theaters. JVL is going to see it twice on our behalf. You have a very inspiring Twitter bio, vote or die. We do totally agree with that. Like, let's stay in touch. We'll do this again sometime. We're so grateful for all your time. And we'll catch y'all on the Bulwark Next Level podcast on Wednesday with Sarah, and on the Bulwark podcast with Charlie Sykes every day. Peace out.